everyone, I'm Alex Mitchell, and today's devotion will be reading from Psalm and Genesis. So Psalm 36:9 reads, "For with you is the fountain of life, and your light we see light." And Genesis 21:1-7 reads, "Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him, as God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, 'God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me.' And she added, 'Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age.'" And I wanted to add in here that Isaac, the name Isaac means he laughs. So God is light and life. God gives light and life. Have you ever wanted something so desperately that you found yourself consumed and longing and temptation to do whatever it takes to obtain it? Sarah waited for her child that God promised to her and became so very desperate. In her human imperfections, she tried to find other ways to give Abraham a child. And God still kept his promise, even though Sarah strayed, and even though Sarah and Abraham tried to take matters into their own hands, God still kept his promise, even though they didn't have faith in God and God's promise. So God kept his promise, and it took a while, but God still kept his promise. So our God is not a God who goes back on his word. He keeps his promises to us, and this is how we can know that our faith is built on a solid foundation of love and trust. God tells us that, part of loving is to trust. So our hearts will become restless in this world of instant gratification because things appear out of nowhere with the click of a button. Think about Amazon. You can have same-day delivery just by looking on the internet and ordering something. So we can take our wants and make them appear, but it might not be the way that God had promised us. So that's just something that we always have to remind ourselves is just because something that God promised us hasn't happened yet, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen, and that we have to have faith because he keeps his promises to us. So when our restless hearts grow weary and impatient and sad, we have to hold on to our faith and wait on God's timing. And that is something that is so hard for me to do, sitting at home and quarantine, wondering what's going to happen, looking outside and praying that we can be with family and friends again, waiting on this hope. It's so hard, and it's so anxiety ridden for me. But he's never late. He is never late on his promises. He knows the plans that he has for us because he designed us. He knows every single hair on our head. These plans are good plans. They're plans that will help us prosper, plans that will make us happy, plans that won't harm us. These are God's words. This is God's promise to us. So in this time of Advent, this time of Christmas, even though it might look a little bit and feel a little bit different than normal, we wait. We wait in God's promises. We find peace while we're waiting in his hope and love that can only be found at the feet of his son, Jesus. Take comfort knowing that we do not have to be perfect for God to keep his promises to us. That's proven in Sarah and Abraham's story. God loves us so much, and his light still shines through us and our imperfections, because he's a God of grace. He's a God of grace, and he's a God who keeps his promises to us. He promised to love us, and he did. Jesus came and promised to save us, and he did. So now we wait for him, faithful and true to his word and his love. So I really hope that you all are having a great Christmas season, and thanks for listening.